Code 187.
Officers on the scene.
Some of my content has mention of extreme violence, sexual assault, and or other triggering content. Discretion is advised.
Hi guys, we are back with our OJ case today, and yeah, we're gonna get into it.
Woo!
Woo! Hi guys, we are back. We talked about the ins and outs of OJ last week, and it was a lot. And this week we are back with just some crazy facts. So
Yes, I learned a lot about that case that I didn't know. And for some reason, a lot of comedians have talked about that. And so I was hearing a lot of that on Pandora about that whole case, just from different comedians. Like, everybody talked about it. So, yeah, you hear bits and pieces. And then I was sitting on the radio as I was listening to us, like, we talked about that. We talked about that. I understand now. So
yeah, it's like we can name drop now. Like we could actually talk about OJ Simpson.
Yeah.
But I've been hearing like a bunch of weird stuff too. So I don't know, maybe it's OJ season or something.
Yeah, I almost said like his spirit's coming back, but he's not dead.
I know. He's just lingering everywhere.
Yeah, if he's out of jail now, right?
Yes.
Oh.
So last week or last time we talked about all the ins and outs of the murder of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman.
Mm-hmm.
I have just some extra weird stuff about the case that didn't really fit in anywhere.
Okay.
But it's just fascinating.
Okay.
And some theories, and there are some wild theories. So we're gonna get into that today.
Okay.
I'm super excited.
You know we're gonna have our theories on here as well too.
What's that?
I don't know. Well, I don't have any theories yet, but they're gonna be talking about their theories, and then be like, "Well, that don't make any sense. Like, this is what I think happened." So yeah, just buckle up and let's ready to go.
Right, right. So first, here's just some weird things. So the children were sleeping upstairs during the whole murder, which is terrible to think about. And also very odd that that whole thing happened and they had no idea.
Yes. So I remember last time we were kind of talking about if it was sporadic or planned.
Mm-hmm.
This leads me to say it's more sporadic now.
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't do that if your kids, well, I guess, I mean, you might.
But then I'm like, where else would the kids be?
Yeah.
With OJ.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's like, you know, I mean, I bet you he liked his kids, so I bet you he didn't want to hurt them, but that's just weird. You're going to her house, even if it was planned, you're going to her house and you're going to kill her, and you know your kids are upstairs. You're just like, done with that. I'll be back for the kids. You know?
Right. So weird.
Yeah.
So people have talked about this a lot. In 2007, OJ wrote a book called If I Did It.
This is the dumbest thing in the world. You don't get away with murder, quotation marks, and then write a book. If I would have done it, this is how I would have done it.
Yeah, he is like, I'm smarter than the killer. This is how I would have killed her. What? Wait, what? Did you just say that?
Stupid.
Yeah. So he's really guilty. I'm sorry, but he is. He's just a stupid guilty. Also in 2007, and this is what you've kind of talked about a little bit, was OJ robbed a man at gunpoint for a bunch of his own memorabilia. So this guy had a bunch of OJ's football memorabilia. OJ went in and said, I want my memorabilia at gunpoint, which he probably could have just bought it or something. But the whole thing happened. He was sentenced to 33 years in prison. and he got out in 2017.
Yep.
So he ended up being in prison, and he was a good prisoner, but
Yep.
not for the murders. It was
Yep.
for robbing himself.
But you also okay, so like that's kind of a like small crime, you know, like that usually would be like a slap on the hand. But I wonder if they kept him in there because for 33 years you're trying to steal your own stuff, like, and nobody. This is a big football star. We mentioned last episode he couldn't pay the bail money for stealing
Right.
this stuff. I think it had to be because of the murders. Like they were like, we can't keep him in there forever, but let's pin him down for something, you know. But the cops was just sitting there like spiders, just waiting for him to just mess up.
Right. And I think they probably brought the hammer down on him because they were like, if we can't get you for the murder, we're going to get you for this.
Oh yeah. I mean, but still, it's your stuff. Why would you go and steal it? He read the book. He read the book. Sarah, what I'm gonna need you to do on video, if you can get like the picture you did, just put it like right here or somewhere.
I will do that.
Because that's what he read the book. BTK, How to Murder for Dummies.
Yep. Murder for Dummies.
Oh, because he's just doing some dumb stuff. You're gonna write a book. You're kind of like the selfie killer. That's a plug right there. That's a couple weeks ago. Listen to that one, where she was just out there and she wrote. I just listened to that one, but she wrote into the true crimes person and was like, "Hey, I'm doing this murder." That's basically what he did. It was just like, "Hey, everybody, I committed the murder, but I didn't commit the murder. And since I didn't commit the murder, this is how I would have done it." You know, a lot of quotation marks in this episode.
OJ is not a smart man.
Yeah.
And I remember he is out. He's free,
Yep.
completely. I think he's even off parole
Yep.
at this point. And I remember when Tiger King came out in 2020, and we were in the middle of pandemic.
Yep.
And he talked about Carol Baskins being guilty of murder and stuff, and people were like, "OJ, can you shut your mouth, please?"
I remember that.
Like, what are you doing?
He just needs to listen. There will never ever be a person like that. Like,
Never.
he got away. You are a famous person who got away with murder, and this is now what I'm. He's a super. What? Like, hold on. He is a very popular person, but his popularity and his celebrityness-ship wasn't going to prevent him from going to jail. Because, like with most celebrities, it would be, oh, they're a big-time celebrity, we can't put them in jail. But this was not going to. And he got away with it. Like, there's not going to be anybody like this in the world. Like, there are a lot of people who think he did it. I'm a believer. And there are a lot of people who don't. But for everybody, he did it. And he's just, I don't know.
Have I thoroughly convinced you that he did it?
Yeah, with all the evidence.
The evidence. There's a lot of
Yeah,
evidence.
with all the evidence, because it's like, okay, I mean, if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, I still don't believe it, that's fine, that's great. But on this show, Sarah presents the evidence, and then with my true crime brain, I just put everything together and make my whole thing. And based from the evidence that you've given us, yeah, I mean, and until you can prove something else, like,
Right.
with somebody else who did it, which
You lead me right into.
Yeah.
So, who else would have done it? And there is some very interesting theories. And there's 3 or 4 big ones that I talk about. And the biggest one, number 1, is people think OJ's son did it.
How old was the kid?
What?
How old was the kid?
He was older. This was his older son,
okay.
who was in his early 20s, I think,
Okay.
at the time.
Okay.
This was from a previous marriage. It wasn't one of the kids sleeping
I
upstairs.
thought it was one of the little kids. I was like, no.
So people think that OJ's son either one was madly in love with Nicole and was jealous, so he took it out on her, or OJ and him did it together and they covered it up. And the reason people think this is because Nicole was supposed to go to a restaurant that night to kind of celebrate OJ's son because he was the cook there.
Okay.
And she didn't show up.
Mm-hmm.
And so people are like, oh, well, that means that he was mad at her.
Mm-hmm.
Which he's come out and said, like, I wasn't mad at her. Like, nothing, nothing like that. But people, this came out in a book or a movie that somebody did. And they theorized this whole thing that it wasn't OJ, it was his son. And OJ's son had anger issues and all this stuff.
Okay.
I don't think this has much weight to it.
Okay.
It just seems a little far-fetched because there was OJ's DNA.
Yes.
Like, if they did it together, maybe, but I think it was one assailant.
Yep.
And I just don't think he would want his son to get caught up in the middle of things either.
Yes, and we also talked about footprints. So do they wear the same size shoe? The DNA that we said, and then he doesn't really have an alibi for the time frame.
Right.
You know, so.
And
well,
he beat her.
Yeah.
I mean, he has like all of that domestic violence past. This could have been just he was going to beat her and then ended up killing her.
Yeah. I mean, and come on, this dude, he was like 20 something at the time, right? 20. He's a grown ass man. Oh, my dad's boyfriend or my dad's wife didn't come to my restaurant to see me cook. She wouldn't even be able to see him cook because he's in the damn back. I used to work at Olive Garden. I know how this stuff works. Okay. People come to Olive Garden to see me, and guess where I'm at? I'm washing dishes. They don't see me, and they're always like, "Joe, I missed you." You know. I don't know.
So that's the kind of weirdest theory people point to. People blame CTE, which I don't know if you know much about sports CTE or anything.
No. Mm-mm.
Okay, so there was a movie starring Will Smith, who one of my favorite people on the planet.
Even now.
What?
Even now.
Even now? Is that what you said?
Mm-hmm.
Even after he slapped Chris Rock?
Yeah. Listen, I'm going to have you on the Joe Show, and we're going to talk about this.
Why?
Because I just want to hear people's opinions about it.
I'll talk about Will Smith all day.
Okay.
Anyway,
Let's get to you.
he's a handsome man. I can't lie. Anyway, so he was in a movie that was talking about CTE, which is majorly in like football, and it's the head trauma that football players get from just being hit in the head repeatedly.
Yes. Concussion is the movie with him in it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And the causes of that we've seen a lot is people murdering people, their spouses, their children. Like, I don't, it's not a symptom of CTE, but like murder is happening a lot to these football players. They are murdering at a higher rate now, which is strange.
Well, I think it's, I don't know. I'm not a scientist, but let's say you're trained to do football. You're trained to play football. Do football, stupid. But you're trained to play football. You get a concussion, and your body just reverts to what it's used to, what it's doing all the time, which is hitting people, you know, or that violent uproar, you know.
Anger.
Yeah. You know, so all those emotions they would normally use in a game, and then they can compartmentalize, you know, like, oh, here's the game, here's my home life. Maybe when they get their concussions or they get enough of them, they can't compartmentalize anymore.
Yeah. It's very interesting. I've looked into some cases with CTE, and I'll probably talk about one of them eventually, where these football players have killed their families, and then themselves and stuff, and people talking about just getting hit in the head that many times and what it causes, and the changes to football since and all of that. So maybe we'll get a deep dive into that at some point.
Yes, I would love that because I've played the grandfather game of football, which is rugby. So I've got some experience because it's better than football.
Look at you. Rugby's harder than football, isn't it? Like, don't you get hurt more?
Yes and no.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that's 2 topics. Rugby. Where's my book? Rugby and Will Smith. Sarah's. Guys, you need to come over to the Joe Show one of these weeks because Sarah's going to be on there, and those are going to be our 2 topics. So.
Okay. So next is, remember when I talked about Kato Kaelin, which Kato was the man that lived behind OJ's house, and he was like staying there for a while, and he heard thumping on the outside of his house.
Yes.
During those hours that OJ's just kind of MIA. Well, people theorize that Kato was hired to do it. Which if you've ever seen Kato Kaelin, he is one of the weirdest people. He's back when he was kind of like hippie-ish.
Okay.
Like you see him in interviews, he's like, whatever, man, it's all good, man. Like I think he was too out there to do a lot of things. Yeah. But who knows?
But people have to keep thinking about footprints, DNA, and the glove. One glove was left, and then one was found with OJ, right? So
one was in the house, one was in the crime scene.
Yeah. So these are great theories from these people. Very interesting. But you got to make sure that everything fits, the footprints, the DNA. The DNA is one of those big ones. Like, it's like, you could probably say something about the footprints, like, oh, somebody else. Somebody planted the glove. But literally your DNA is at the scene or in the car. I don't know. Just saying.
Yeah, I think they just wanted to paint it on anybody else they could just to get OJ cleared, and it does not work.
Yeah, it's kind of like Bill Cosby. This is a person who was loved for a very long time, and people didn't want to see their hero go down this path, So that's when you just come up with anything to make them, no, they didn't do anything. When I was with them, they were the greatest person in the world. Oh, they couldn't have done it, type of deal.
Right. And Kato Kaelin's he's had his 5 minutes of fame off of this, which a lot of people have. Like, a lot of people have taken OJ and these murders and profited. Kato's been on Big Brother, the reality show. He's written books and stuff. He's doing his thing, man.
I just think that's so stupid. It's a murder. One of your peoples that you knew was part of it, and then you just blow up off of it. Okay, hold on. We're kind of doing the same thing. I do not think
we don't talk about that. That's behind the wall stuff.
Yeah, we don't talk about that. We do not do that. We're not trying to get our 5 minutes of fame talking about people's murders and murder cases.
But speaking of all of this, this leads me into something that this is all off the dome because I didn't write any of this down.
Okay.
But speaking of 5 minutes of fame, let's talk about the connection between OJ and the Kardashians.
Oh, I've heard this theory before, but I've never studied this case. So I've heard about this theory, but I've never done any research for it. So hold on a second, because this is interesting. So let me check my time. Let's take a break. Okay, we're gonna take a break. We'll be right back after this. We're gonna talk about how the OJ Simpson and Nicole Brown Simpson's case is connected to the Kardashians. Guys, we'll be right back after this.
Hi guys, and we are back talking about OJ still and all of the crazy connections it has in our world.
Yes. And she left us on a little cliffhanger about the Kardashians connecting to the OJ case. And I'm like, what? So, Sarah, how do they connect?
Okay, well, this is all like Hollywood stuff and drama and all of that. But so, and like I said, I didn't write any of this down. So this is all just my knowledge of, Hollywood, I guess. But so there is this thing called the Kardashian Curse.
Okay.
Which means that every man that the Kardashians get involved with has had issues.
Yep.
I.e. Kanye, Tristan Thompson, who's cheated on Khloe a million times, Lamar Odom, like that. So there's this thing saying, like, don't hook up with Kardashians, basically.
Yep.
It all started there being an intermingling between the Kardashian family and the Simpson family.
Okay.
And when I say intermingling, there is talks that the mom, Kris, from the Kardashians, hooked up with OJ. So to understand all of this, let's first talk about the Kardashian family.
Okay.
So there's Robert Kardashian, who's the dad. He was with Kris Kardashian, and they had lots of children.
Okay.
They had 3 girls and a boy. And then she went on to marry Bruce Jenner, who is now Caitlyn, but Bruce Jenner, and they had 2 other girls, Kylie and Kendall.
Yep.
I watched the Kardashians. I know this whole history. So Robert Kardashian was a famous lawyer.
Okay.
And he, back in the day before any of the Kardashian fame, was just rich and famous for representing famous clients.
Gotcha. Okay.
He represented OJ
Okay.
because he was friends with the family. OJ and Robert Kardashian actually went on like a vacation together just 2 weeks prior to this whole thing. Their families knew each other. Nicole and Kris, the mom, were best friends.
Gotcha.
So these families were very much best friends all together.
Okay.
When this happened, Robert Kardashian represented OJ along with numerous other famous lawyers.
Yep.
And Kris Jenner, who is now with Bruce, was on the other side because she felt like he killed her best friend.
Gotcha.
So it kind of was like this weird thing. When Robert Kardashian and Kris split, she got with Bruce. And it's interesting because in the OJ trial, you see Kris Jenner and Bruce Jenner together, and then Robert Kardashian is representing OJ. So they were all there. Like, they all were intermingled with all of this. Now, the talks of the Kardashian curse is because supposedly Kris had an affair on Robert, and Khloe Kardashian, who looks very different from her sisters, is supposedly OJ's daughter. Now, they have denied this adamantly. They have said take DNA tests and all of this stuff.
Yeah.
Recently, a lot of people have brought up that Khloe Kardashian's daughter, True, who is Tristan Thompson, Khloe Kardashian's daughter, is very dark-skinned. And people are like, she's not just a mixed child.
Okay.
She came from, like, a mixed person and a black person. So they're really trying to get this.
Her grandpa was black.
They're really trying to say this, which, like, a lot of mixed children, you know this, like, it's a grab bag. You get
Yep.
some that are darker, some that are lighter, and that's what's beautiful about mixed children.
That's what happened between my boys. One's lighter, one's darker.
Right. My daughter pretty much looks like me sometimes, but yeah. She was not blessed that way. But yes, so you have this intermingling thing. Then afterwards, they get a reality show. Kim does her sex tape, blows up, becomes huge, and
Never mind, that's off topic. Go ahead.
they have really talked about OJ over the years. Chloe came out and said that she thinks her dad died. He died of throat cancer. She said she thought he was holding in secrets about OJ.
So that's Robert, right?
Yes.
Chloe thinks Robert is her dad.
Yeah, she believes Robert is her dad.
Okay.
Which I don't know, but there was a recent interview with Kim saying, you know, that her mom and her dad being on two different sides was very weird, and the kids were caught in the middle because that was like Uncle OJ to them.
Yeah.
So, right?
That just sent shivers down my spine.
So there's this whole big Kardashian OJ Simpson thing in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Now they don't have any contact, I don't believe, but yeah.
That's crazy. I didn't even know that. Like,
I feel ashamed at how much I know about the Kardashians. I need a life.
I did. I just went back and fact checked all that, and you were correct about everything you just said.
Thank you.
But that is crazy how you can have those connections. I thought Chris had just had sex with him, and that was as close as they got. I didn't know they were friends before. But that's crazy. Somebody that you know, and it's because Nicole would probably talk to Chris about, oh yeah, OJ beat me and stuff like that. And then I bet
they did. They had conversations like that.
Yeah, and I bet that Robert did have secrets about OJ because he's the lawyer. Like OJ that was probably the first thing that was, OJ, did you do it? I did it. You know? You know? And he's like, well, fuck, man. Now we got to figure out some way to do it. Shoot.
There's this film that I was watching about OJ, and they were talking about Robert Kardashian, and they brought up all these films from around that time, and there was press everywhere, you know, and people with cameras. And there's this sighting of Robert Kardashian with a briefcase, and then the briefcase is gone. And people are like, there was evidence in that briefcase. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but it was an interesting theory.
Yes. So here's my thing. You have two very powerful, two very rich people. Why couldn't they do a better job of hiding this?
I don't know.
Like, Goodfellas, like Scarface, The Godfather. All these gangster movies came out way before this happened. They basically tell you how to get rid of people. And y'all couldn't even just take a movie plot and try to cover up some of this stuff with all the money you have. Like, you couldn't have paid somebody to do this. They could have made the trace so thin that it'd be 2022 and we'd be asking, is OJ connected to this murder? Is OJ connected? You know, like, they could have did such a good job, you know, like could you imagine? Oh, wouldn't that be crazy if Robert's like on his deathbed and he's just like, they're like, what? OJ did it.
Well, Robert Kardashian's dead, so that didn't happen.
Dang it.
We might get a deathbed confession from OJ though.
Oh, That would okay. That would break history.
It would.
Yeah.
And he's one to do it because he likes the attention. So he'd be like, I'm going down in history with this one.
Yeah. And I wouldn't even like. Let's just say I didn't do it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I would still go out that way. Like I'd pray to God that I'm on my deathbed and I'm sick, and then I'm just like, yeah, I killed her. And then
You know what I would do?
What?
I would get everybody in and be like, all right, guys, I have this big confession to make. Right? Get everybody in, get close, and then I'd say, Chloe's my daughter. And just throw everybody off. Then just die.
It'll just be like that thing. For those of you who have seen the first Iron Man, when Tony Stark's up there and he's supposed to say, "I'm not Iron Man," and then he says, "I'm Iron Man," and they take all the pictures like, "Oh my God, I can't believe he said it." That's how it's going to be with OJ and Chloe. It's going to be so great. I can't wait for the future.
So what do you think about the Kardashian curse? Do you think it's real?
Yeah, because all the stuff's happening. Like,
Kanye went nuts.
Yeah.
Recently, so.
Didn't they just? I think I just saw like a news story that he was singing outside of Kim's bedroom or something. Like.
Yeah.
He's.
I think he would have been the new OJ if like he didn't settle it a little bit because he was stalkerish. He was angry. And
Kanye's that kind of person too, where a lot of people would have blown it off. Like they would have been like, they think Kanye killed Kim. Nah. Or if they found out it was Kanye, they'd be like, it was Kanye being Kanye. You know, kind of a deal. Like, I don't know. It's just, yeah, I just think it's, Yeah, I do think there's a curse. I do think
it's interesting.
Mm.
And I love the Kardashians. I can't. It's one of those guilty pleasure things for me because, like, when I'm not watching true crime, I want to watch something that, like, I can laugh at and think, like, I'm not that dumb.
And people laugh at me for watching true crime.
Right.
Shoot.
So, go ahead.
This is just a real. I don't know where you keep doing, or where you keep pulling all this out, because this just keeps getting interesting and interesting and interesting. Like last week, you just kept pulling stuff out, and I'm like, oh my gosh, and then I couldn't wait, and then this week, you just keep going and going and going. Jeez, do we have another third episode coming up?
I wish, but unless we get a deathbed confession in the next couple hours, no.
I'll have some of my people talk to OJ's people. We'll see what happens. We're gonna
make them swim with the fishes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know some Italian people. We can get them going.
I do believe OJ did it, obviously. Like I was talking about last week, it's so hard for me because there was a lot of missteps in the investigation.
Yep.
But at the same time, like, all the evidence just points to this was just frenzied. Yep. It was just a spur of the moment thing, and then they tried to cover it up afterwards.
Yep.
And the police did a lot of shady stuff, but there was just there was all this stuff to work with.
Yep.
So it was hard.
And I want to remind people too that even though this is a big case, it's not like it's no different than any of the other cases we talk about. Literally, it's what we do on this show. We gather information, we put it all together, and then we make a verdict of what we do with our investigation. And the only reason I'm saying that is because I know there are probably people that are listening that still believe OJ didn't do it, and they are screaming into the radio or into their phone right now. And so that's just what I really want to tell people. It's like, you do the research, you tell us, we use our brains to kind of investigate. And I'm just comparing this case to all the other cases we've done on this show, and with the evidence that he did it.
Yeah, there's a lot of physical evidence. And I think if you take race out of this case, it's kind of cut and dry.
Yep.
But because race was involved, it's just so messy.
Yes. And I mean, it's even one of those things with what happened, Kobe Bryant, and that case with him, and I think there was a young lady who walked into his bedroom or something. He got in trouble for that, and it was a whole race thing because he was black and she was white, and that poured a lot more gasoline on the fire. So it's crazy. I wish we could have just got a case where it was just, oh, this happened. Let's get all the evidence. I don't know.
And like I said last time too, it's really hard because the victims in this case don't get the attention, the notoriety, anything that OJ gets.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't even know Ron Goldman's name.
Yeah. I didn't.
Yeah, and Nicole, like she was a domestic violence victim,
Yep.
and she doesn't get recognized for that at all. It's very complicated.
It's one of those things where I've always seen investigations or movies or jokes about OJ, but I've never heard anything about her. Like, there's no movie about her early childhood and how she got to this point and how she met OJ and then this is what happens, or how she met Ron. There's none of that. It's all OJ from kind of his point of view kind of deal. Maybe because that's just what we see, And I guess
she was very young too when she met OJ, and I think I tried really hard to dig into her childhood and all of that, and I think it just gets outshined.
Yep.
Because the moment she met OJ, it was they're the couple, they're the perfect thing, and then all this happened. So no one talks about her and her early life either.
Yep.
Which is very sad.
Yeah. She was just a trophy wife.
Yeah, kind of like a piece of meat, and that's not fair.
Yeah. What do the kids think about it?
So they haven't really talked much.
Okay.
About it. I don't know how old they are now. Let me Google that really fast because that would be interesting to know.
Because that's one thing we haven't really talked about. It's like we kind of left the kids high and dry. We're just like, oh yeah, you guys were upstairs in the bedroom, and that's it. We don't talk about it. I mean, your dad might have killed your mom. That's all, babies. Go live life now.
So it looks like they're in their 30s.
Okay.
Which would make sense being that they're kind of around the same age as the Kardashians.
Yeah. You were 90. What? Kim Kardashian's only in her 30s?
She's in her 40s, I think.
Okay.
But close.
Yeah. So, this happened, what do we say, 94?
Yeah.
93, 94? The same year Forrest Gump and Shawshank Redemption came out.
What a year.
Yeah. That was crazy. I'm a movie guy. Now. But yeah, that is crazy. What do you guys think about this case? The whole thing, whole meat potatoes.
I want to know your theories. I want to know if you think he did it or not. And just so you know,
where can everybody find us?
First, YouTube. I'm always gonna mention that first now. And Spotify, Instagram, Twitter, where else? Facebook. We're just all over. All the links are in the description below. Come talk to us because there's been a lot of good comments and discussions lately.
Yes.
And I love it.
Yes. I just did a post for Code 187 and I did this and I really liked it. Listen, investigate, solve crime. Like, that's what you do. I mean, that's the show. Yeah. Listen, investigate, and let's solve a crime. So, as of right now, I am Joe.
And I am Sarah.
And we will see you guys next time on Code 187. See you guys later.
Hi guys, I just wanted to say I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like any of the content for Code 187, please click that subscribe button, that like button, that share button. Help us out, help us grow. You can find us on your favorite podcast platforms. Yeah, check us out on there. Give us some ratings. Tell us what you think. We're also across every social media on Code 187. So we're on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I think that's it. And of course YouTube. So please, please, please subscribe if you like our content and spread the word. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.